It seems like from this conversation and many others I've had, sort of the low points are also the best learning points, especially when you recover from them. Um, can you tell me about maybe some other low points or some major screw ups and what the takeaway? I mean, over the course of a pretty long career at a company, usually something goes wrong. And I'm interested in, okay, how do you handle those? But also, how does a company handle if someone makes a large mistake? Because I think there is so much fear about making a mistake in your work that a lot of people don't take initiative. They don't build things that would be really valuable. And nobody really knows what the real downside of making big mistakes is because very few people talk about it.
Yeah. I think there's two funny mistakes I made. One where I think it's hard to surmise any sort of learnings. It's just funny. So I'll tell that one first. And then there's one where I think there's some good learnings. And maybe I'll elaborate on that in more depth. The first one is that when I was on the ops team, I deleted the geography of San Francisco from the DoorDash database. And so it just shut down for a day. So drivers couldn't drive, people couldn't order food, and restaurants couldn't get orders. And and it was one of those things too, where you looked in the database and it said like Danny Paris made this change. And this was also when we were physically in an office in San Francisco with 200 other people. And so it was this thing where all of the and then actually to make it even worse, the way that DoorDash would feed its employees was by placing DoorDash orders for dinner. And so we couldn't place the orders for dinner. So nobody could eat food. It was a huge mess. And so it was kind of randomness. I just played with some variable in the database, deleted it. And then over some period of time, we had to actually rebuild the geography and then ultimately bring all of the restaurants back online. And it was embarrassing. And I think even the CEO was involved at a certain point asking what happened because he opened his app and it just said, hey, the company you built does not exist where you are.
At least the app didn't say Danny Paris brought the whole thing down.
He did message the channel that was Northern California operators. And he's like, hey, what happened? And I had to chime in and explain what happened. Fortunately or unfortunately, in the early days of DoorDash, that stuff happened a lot. I'm not saying it was forgivable, but it was a rite of passage to make mistakes like that just because it's such a complex system. You have these three-sided marketplace for if you include support. And so there was just, and it was still a startup at the time. And so it was built originally as a college project. So there were all of these different things that you could break. And ultimately, it was a very bad day, but I felt fine because I had seen a lot of my other peers make similar mistakes.